Hello, and welcome to the third of our cast and crew conversations for If There's a Hell Below. I am the director, Nathan Williams. With me is First AC Margaret Longley. How you doing, Margaret?
Pretty well. How are you?
Thanks for coming on board my little show. We are recording this on Thursday, March 13th, and we have a mini milestone to celebrate. We are at 50% of our crowdfunding goal. Here's our big budget chart. So the little red dots are sort of where we've calculated we should be at a given time based on past campaigns, and the line is where we are. We feel like we should be on pace, but again, these aren't oil futures or some kind of abstract thing happening. These are some of you watching and listening. Every time this line goes up, it's a person contributing, so we do not take this for granted, and the line obviously does not just move on its own. So 50% of the way there means we have half of the way to go. So every contribution, no matter how small, really makes a huge difference. If you have contributed, let people know who know you, because your friends like you and they're interested in the things that you are interested in. If you say, I contributed to this film, they're going to find that interesting, and maybe 1 in 10 of them follow up on it, but that's how we do it. So thank you guys so far, and we're excited about the next half. Some people may not know what an AC is or does. What do you do?
Well, an AC does a lot of things, depending on the set and the crew. And probably one of the most important things that some people who don't make movies or study movies might not know is that an AC, first AC, pulls focus. Mm-hmm. So the camera operator, which sometimes is the DP, in our case, will be a director of photography.
In many indie films, the DP operates their own camera.
Right. We'll be framing the shots and figuring out what to shoot, working with you on that. But my job is going to be to make sure that everything is in focus. That is obviously a really important job. Or important for the success of the film.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are not filmmakers may take for granted when you shoot something with your digital camera or your iPhone or something, you're not really thinking about focus most of the time. With high-end cameras, most movies, focus is often a very narrow, very narrow. That if an actor's moving or the camera's moving relative to an actor, that a shot can be challenging for you.
And it's not just whether things are in focus, it's also what is being focused on, and then changing that focus from, say, one character to another, which, if it's done well, the viewer won't even notice. Their eye will just be drawn there naturally, So right. It's something that people don't think about a lot, because when it is done well, you don't really notice it unless you do make films or you're thinking about that stuff. But it should be sort of just natural.
How would you compare and contrast a Nathan Williams film to other people's films? Because I honestly don't know. I just make movies the way I think they should be made.
One thing about the sets that I've worked on that have bigger crews that I've noticed, or that are union or they're run like union shoots, is that the roles are really clearly defined. So if you're the second AC, your jobs are very specific. If you're the first AC, your job is very specific, camera operator, etc. So everyone has their role that they're fulfilling, and that's a great system. It works well, and it makes sense. But what it sometimes means is that there's the element of teamwork can be a little bit different. And what I've experienced on your sets is that working with small crews, people have their roles, and yet there's a lot of flexibility and sort of giving input and feedback and kind of doing whatever needs to get done to make it happen, to make everything come together,
right,
and have a good time and enjoy, the process while doing it. That doesn't always exist on other sets.
I enjoy small crews. I mean, it's easy to say when that's all I can afford.
And I think another aspect is that with those roles, there's sometimes there's a bit of a hierarchy, I mean, there's a logical hierarchy to that.
Right.
But I think on some sets that hierarchy is really, it's more strong. You get the sense that different people have different levels of importance to the film. But in my experience, in reality, every single person that's on set, if they're doing their job and they're contributing, is absolutely necessary and important to that, right? So I think one thing I've noticed working on your sets is that I don't feel like there's a hierarchy. I don't feel like I'm less important if my role is not one of the most important roles. So.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I like people who know what they're doing, and you fit that. But I really like crew members who are also kind of complete filmmakers, which you are certainly one. Our DP is one. One of our producers is, can pick a camera or record sound, or people who, at the time, when you're pulling focus, you're thinking about pulling focus. You're not watching the boom op and thinking about sound, but you think about the whole movie at appropriate junctures, and I think that's cool, and I think that makes you more valuable to the process.
I think that's a very cool aspect, actually, that we're going to be working with people that do have the big picture sense, and have filled other roles and a range of knowledge and experience to bring.
Yeah, and again, it's a luxury for me because at the end of the day, I can ignore everyone's input if I want to. I can seem very open-minded and be like, "Thanks for the advice. You're all wrong. I am right." But I like at the end of the day to get together with people and just not, as AC, tell me about AC things, but like, what do you think about the movie? What do you think about the story? But just the general perspective. I think it makes for better filmmaking, at least on this scale. I want to make really good films with people who are really good at making films, and I'm not. That's my primary motivation. But I certainly try to seek out female craftspeople, and I wonder, how, in your experience in the camera department, is it a challenge? Is it just a thing like, oh, of course there's this percentage, but it's not a big deal? How is it for you?
I think my experience is a little different from probably the experience that most women have had working in the camera department, because a lot of the sets I've been on have had actually myself and one other woman in the camera department. But I do realize that that's very unusual. And I think the times when I've been the only woman in the camera department, like I said, like most of the sets I've worked on have been like really great people who are respectful, and so I haven't felt that to be a problem. But I think I do recognize that with that hierarchy thing, as you mentioned earlier, and the different roles that people fulfill, it's like there's this sense of needing to sort of start at the bottom and work up in the film industry, especially with larger sets and bigger crews and bigger budget projects. And I think like the likelihood of being offered, say, like a chance to move up to that next position or that next role in the camera department to fill that, there aren't as many women necessarily pursuing that, or even given the sense that that's an option.
Right.
I see women going into the being production assistants and things like that, but not that many women, it seems like try to go into camera department.
Right.
And the ones that do, are amazing. The ones I've worked with have been amazing and taught me a lot of stuff. But I think in general, if you look at the number of sort of known female directors of photography that are out there. The numbers are, it's pretty, there are very few, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's lower than percentages of female directors, which is not a great, not a great percentage to our industry's discredit.
And that itself is a low number, as you say, female directors as well. And I notice in camera departments, it seems like if there is a woman in the camera department, she's most likely to be in the role of like second AC, which is an extremely important role. But less likely to see women as first AC or camera operator or director of photography.
Right. And do you think, again, you know, you have not the perspective of every female filmmaker in camera departments everywhere, but do you think that's partly just legacy issues of, you know, there's established male DPs who got their career started 10, 20, 30 years ago who are still working, and they're still, you know, they're now the established DPs, and the ladder up is today, even if you eliminate bias, is still a difficult ladder up, even if you could somehow magically say zero bias there. Or do you sense that there is conscious, you know, choices, maybe they're or subconscious, but, you know, people assuming women will not be as good at being cinematographers or camera operators or first ACs?
I think it's mostly a legacy issue. I think it's mostly the fact that the field has been dominated by men. I mean, a lot of the film industry in general, most of the roles have been filled by men historically. And I think that is changing. I think it's a combination of, in some cases, women might not feel that they might not have the confidence to think, okay, I can gain the technical knowledge I need to do stuff in the camera department.
Right.
In some cases, people who are potentially going to offer them a job might think, okay, they might not have as much of a technical sense of things. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't experienced that myself, but I think that is probably the case in some cases.
Yeah, and again, we're not speaking about any specific. I mean, you can speak specifically about my films, and I'll take, you know, I'm a male director, and our DP is male, and I'd like to think that is a legacy thing, in that our DP I went to school with a long time ago and have an existing relationship, but, you know, maybe subconsciously I make, you know, I lean towards that choice.
I think in your case, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of putting you in the position where I'm asking you to validate me, which is not really fair. And until until you DP one of my movies, I don't really deserve the validation, perhaps. So we'll have to prove that wrong sometime soon.
I mean, I was thinking that, like, one of the challenges for anyone that is aspiring to, say, be a director of photography or camera operator, fill kind of a big role in the camera department, the challenge is getting the experience and then having something you can show to say, yes, I have this experience, I've done this before, look at my work. And for women, I think historically it's been difficult to get that sort of thing that you can show as an example of your work, because you have to get into that role in order to do that. And now that we have, anyone has the ability potentially, even with, cheaper cameras and stuff, to make projects and to do interesting things, and make camera choices. Like, I think that should hopefully start to disappear.
Yeah, for an industry that's, so ostensibly progressive, you find more like women bank presidents than you do cinematographers. So I think all of us, including myself, and probably plenty of female producers owe themselves, introspection on the issue, because it's not changing that fast. So on, and I also want to add, you shot our awesome looking fundraising video, which is, well, thanks for having this chat with me. I hope people enjoyed getting to know you and what you do and learning more about our process. We may check in again with you maybe during production later. We'll see how exhausted everybody is, but hopefully we get to see you on this again. If not, we will see your craft work in the film. And we will see you guys for episode 4 soon, hopefully with another big fundraising milestone to report. So thank you, Margaret, for being on.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching and listening. Talk to you soon.